What's my
do that
first
today.
convention?
It's
So
Really?
I want to go.
I love convention.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think when you first got the script? Like, oh, what is this?
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was original. That's what I looked for. It was unique, and it had some power, and it was sexy. And I thought, oh, this could work.
Now you said unique. There's a lot of mermaid stories out there,
Not
different
like this.
aspects.
Not like
So
this.
what's unique about it? What
Well, our mermaids are beautiful and exotic and enticing, but they're top-level predators. They will bite your head off if you mess with
He
them.
does look scary.
Yeah. So basically, they're basically, we're hoping that Siren will do for mermaids what other shows have done for vampires and werewolves and what have you.
But I like it because it kind of takes it out of this realm of the magical, you know? It doesn't. It's not kind of like this effervescent, magical, sing-songy, sparkles and Tinkerbell kind of thing, which is great. But I love that we take it and we put it in the context of the world that we recognize, and how we would, the first thing that we would call like some human fish person out of the ocean is probably mermaid, or probably siren, or one of those two things. So it feels like we don't have the words to really describe what these creatures are, adequately. And we're just reaching for the first myth that we can, associate with them. So I really think that perspective for them is something that's really different and really fun, because it gives us so much to
Well,
play
it hasn't
with.
been done. You haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
original. It's not been
Unique.
done.
Yeah.
it was very
Very
different to, I remember, I think it was 2016 when the pilot was shot.
Yeah.
And that script was, maybe it was in June or something, I remember auditioning, and it was completely different from anything I'd read the entire year.
Yeah.
I think too what was really cool, it was one of the few projects where my agent called me and said, look, there's this pilot and they're only seeing a few actors for each role and they're very interested in you for this role. So the creators were very clear about their vision and what they wanted and the flavour they wanted and what they were looking for in their actors, because it wasn't open casting, so to speak. It was kind of, okay, we want to look at that actor, we want to see this actor, we want to see that one for this character. And, and I think that Ian said it on the panel, is that when we went in to do the auditions, we essentially put our name and our flavour onto that role, and this is it. This is our Xander, this is our Helen. And in fact, she also said that on the panel too, Emily, which is like they didn't really...
Yeah, it wasn't. But it's so funny because actually in the script, and I talk about it all the time, Xander was not described.
No, Xander was a large...
Yeah, he was like, I always say he was like portly Thor.
Yeah.
Like that's what I would think of.
He was a large white
He was like a
man.
large,
He was a
bearded,
large, bearded
like
white
Thor was really
fisherman.
just in like, just eating.
Helen was always eccentric, and you, Sibongile, was always a mermaid, right?
Like, just fierce. So like they allowed us to embody these characters without this kind of pretense about what they're supposed to look like and how they're supposed to be embodied. They just really allowed us to bring our essence to it, and then allowed us to mold the roles and really live in it ourselves.
And I think that's really timely industry-wise, as we're just getting to play people. And I think it's one of the strong elements that the whole mer people bring with their mermaid culture, is they're not about gender and they're not about colour, they're not about creed or ethnicity,
Yeah, I
they're
got
just
that too, yeah.
mer people.
Yeah.
And hopefully we as a species can maybe learn something from them.
Do you think it's more? Go ahead. I don't want to.
I was just going to ask the journey of the characters, without seeking spoilers, over the course of the season. What are their journeys? I mean,
I'd love to tell you mine, but my journey is full of spoilers.
You could tell us, but you'd have to kill us, right?
Well,
I think with Donna's journey, her main objective is to get back to the water and take my sister with me. That's basically what my objective is.
So will we see your powers early on? Will we see those powers that you have?
Do you mean like the siren song?
Yeah, those kind of things.
I don't know. You'll have to watch.
cool.
Oh yeah, that's right. Those are spoilers. And my kind of one of my character roles is to protect them and to give them a safe haven, because they come to my shop and my apartment. As the trailer says, every town has a story and every story has a believer, and I'm the Mad Hatter, who is the believer.
I think it's a great
Yes,
description.
and one of the other core characters, Maddie, calls me the town nut job. And I am the town nut job, but she's not really nutty. She actually has been on it the whole time because she's always believed that mermaids were
So
real.
is the story as much about you guys as it is about the town?
Absolutely.
Like in
Our
Stephen
town-
King stories, it's all about the town.
Oh, yeah.
And this seems like it's about the town as well as about you guys.
Well, that's what the creator said this morning on the panel, is in order, because it's quite a fantastical storyline, this whole concept of mermaids, so you've got to give it and put it into a relatable reality that's very grounded. And so, yeah, Bristol Cove is a coastal community that people from all around the world will recognise, because you have your fishermen. The industry's grown up around the fishing industry. You've got your antiquities tourist stores, which mine's the antiquity stores, and you've got your relationships, and you've got your local bar called The Anchor, and it's got a pool table and a dartboard.
What happens there, I bet.
What was the preparation like for each of your roles? I mean, I know for you probably had to go through tons of training. I know you said in the panel, breathing training was huge, and then the whole mythology surrounding mermaids. So what was the preparation like for you guys?
Okay, I'll go. It was, like the swimming, getting the breath holding training, definitely also getting into the mythology of mermaids and stuff, because obviously I've heard about it, had watched Ariel and all of that kind of thing, but actually researching what different cultures' views on it.
For me, I watched a lot of Deadliest Catch, like so much. I remember like sitting in the hotel room and just being like, I am not a fisherman. I grew up by the ocean and I've been on boats, but I am not a fisherman. So I just drank as much, and I never watched the show. So just kind of like the dynamics between them, like little words, things like greenhorn, and just like little things that really just kind of made it all make sense to me that I would read, and I was like, what the hell does that mean? To really just kind of drive into, I don't know, that bro familial, because it's not just like it's you really have each other's backs. It's like it's a life or death kind of a job, and to really understand those power dynamics and the stakes that are involved in that kind of a job. I did a lot of that, and then I watched. They said something, I didn't get to respond to the guy who's just talking about H2O, and I was like, I actually watched a bunch of those. Like I watched Mako Mermaids, and I watched just the most random like things in the world, and because it's all over YouTube. So I just typed in mermaids and saw what I could find.
There's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a lot online.
So much.
For me, I was kind of blessed in terms of I grew up in a place called the Bay of Islands, which is north of the North Island, and it is all about coastal communities, and it's where all the tourists come during summer to get memorabilia, to see the beaches and what have you, and then inland. So inland, my grandmother had a dairy farm, and our main industry, much like what Ian was just saying, this community is all about the fishing industry in Bristol Cove. Our community was all about agriculture and dairy. And so all of these families, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my father, my brothers, my nephews, they all work in that industry. And that's very much Xander's history of his whole family has been in the fishing industry. And of course, I've had a relationship with his father in the storyline. So that part of the story I could identify with very easily, because I didn't go to a city till I was 18 years old, and it freaked the life out of me. But what I did have to do a lot of research in terms of just reading up on mermaid legends and myths, because that's Helen's whole passion and purpose is she's a believer in this whole history of mermaids, and she's tried to convince other people and they've never believed her, which is why they think she's a nut job and she's eccentric, but she's not.
Will the show go,
Yeah, she does. She knows stuff.
She knows the
will the
thing.
show go into each of your backstories a little bit? And how soon will that happen?
You're going to have to tune in, you see.
Stop that.
You can't tell us anything about the backstories.
Backstories. I mean, I think there's a lot of revelations when it comes to the backstories, and I think there's a lot of interesting context that's discovered over the course of the season, and I think there's some good surprises. So I think that's why we're all being a little tight-lipped, because I think that context is half of the fun.
There's a lot of surprises. There's a lot of secrets, and I think what keeps the show interesting is it's unpredictable. So if we just gave you a whole bunch of spoilers right now, we'd lose that unpredictability. You're gonna have to, damn, now I have to watch next week to find out.
We will tell no one.
The whole 10 episodes. Yeah, you're gonna have to watch the whole 10 episodes.
Well, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.